This is the Dairy Download, brought to you by Everag Insights and the International Dairy Foods Association, where we offer extra sharp market and policy insights on dairy. I'm your host, Phil Plord.
And I'm your co-host, Kathleen Wolfley.
This week's episode is all about dairy transportation. Our guests are here to tell us about the work they do to help move perishable products like milk from point A to point B. We'll get to that in a minute. But first, Kathleen, where are we now?
CME spot prices as of Friday, May 1st. CME block cheddar closed at $1.64, a half cent lower on the week. CME spot butter closed at $1.60, down 11 cents to the lowest price since early February. And the spot non-fat dry milk market closed at $2.26 a quarter cent higher on the week. Phil, thinking about those $2.26 type non-fat prices on the CME, and it tells me that that is still one of the most important things right now. We were at an industry conference earlier this week, and it was kind of the talk of the town. At what point do we see that powder market start to turn around? At what point do we start to see a little bit of softness come in? And notably, we have seen some push lower in the futures market here in the last couple of days. Spot's been moving a bit higher. But generally, I think that the talk on the fundamental side is that that market still remains quite tight. Lots of questions, though, on at what point did the export market start to get a little bit squishier on the backside of these high prices. I will note, though, that the NDPSR price from this week was still trading $1.87. So there's a bit of a disconnect between what prices people are seeing in Chicago versus what they may actually be paying.
Yeah, not that $1.85, $1.90 is a gentle blow considering what prices were last year, but there's a lot of lag and drag on the different contract mechanisms. So yeah, I don't know that people are fully experiencing the highest of the prices. And there were export deals that were booked quite a while ago that are probably shipping. And so it's kind of a real tossed salad around how this thing unwinds. Here's the one thing that we're not hearing, though, Kathleen. We're not hearing like, oh, yeah, the dryers are full of milk and we're pumping it out every day. And so long as that's the case, we might struggle for a while. Yes, right? The export business should slow down because we're way out of whack with the rest of the world, at least certainly, places other than Mexico. Yes, we should see incremental supply improvement, if only because of seasonality. All those things are true. But there's still some work to be done here, to your point. We went to this conference for 5 years and didn't talk about non-fat, talked about butter all the time. And this year is sort of a turnabout, right? We didn't say a darn thing about butter, not much about butter, and a whole lot about non-fat dry milk.
Yeah, and whatever commentary there was about cheese, whey was always attached to the conversation.
Yes, it was a protein festival.
Yeah. Okay, so with that, Phil, what's your most important thing right now?
I think we're still focused on gasoline prices and the potential knock-on effects for consumer spending in the economy. Up to this point, things have been pretty mild. I mean, prices are higher, but I didn't feel like we were tripping any wires. But this week, things have jumped up again, certainly as the week wore on. Here in the Madison, Wisconsin area, I paid $4.49 for unleaded today. It took $65 to fill up the old Kia that was kind of running on empty. And I don't know if that's going to change my weekend plans necessarily, but it's certainly an eye-opening number. California today, according to AAA, $6.06 a gallon. How's that? A little spendy. Dollars going to the gasoline tank are dollars that aren't going elsewhere. The government's PCE data yesterday showed that there was a 42% of the increase in spending between February and March was explained by higher gasoline prices. So the more that's going that way, the less that can go the other way. Again, so far, we have not really seen any big downticks in numbers like restaurant visits, but maybe a little trouble creeping along the edges in the last report. So that's what we're watching to see if we're going to lose some discretionary demand for dairy products at the hands of higher gasoline prices.
That leads into my stat of the week, because I suspect there may be more to come on these same-store sales weakness that we saw from the pizza chains. So, first stat of the week is 0.9%. Domino's same-store sales increased in Q1, but came in well below Q4's plus 3.7% year over year and well below expectations. Pizza Hut at the same time saw Q1 results down 4% on same-store sales. So ultimately, I do have to wonder, with higher gas prices, will we continue to see a little bit of slippage in those pizza numbers? Or is pizza a bit of a cheaper luxury for people of, hey, I can go grab a slice of pizza, that's easy, relative to, I don't know, going out to a family dining chain. I don't know what those trade-offs are, but I suspect that given those higher gas prices that were really starting to bite on consumers may start to ultimately influence how and where we spend dollars in restaurants.
Not to just reveal all of my spending patterns over the past couple of days, but we got a couple of pizzas here last night, and it didn't take much to get to $35, and for two people. Now we have enough for leftovers and that kind of thing, but it's still not. It didn't feel cheap. Let me just put it that way.
No. So here's, if I may, another interesting stat. Maybe this is more about people's consumption patterns, but Taco Bell did see an 8% bump in sales. So there may be, too, a trade-off of, do I want pizza or just want Mexican food?
Well, but what does Taco Bell do very, very well?
Cheap value.
Yeah, value, right? And something else that's going well, we'll play to my stat of the week. Protein is doing well. And in the restaurant space, you saw Chipotle with a little bit better than expected. They didn't crush it, but they were positive and people were expecting negative, and they've been focusing on protein in their advertising. But my stat of the week is plus 7.1%. And that was Starbucks same store sales in the last quarter. And you think, well, boy, is there anything more discretionary spending than that? Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be vulnerable, except for these protein lattes apparently are flying off the counter. Starbucks debuted these protein lattes on September 29th. At that point, including September, they had 16 of 18 months with negative same-store foot traffic, according to Placer AI. So 16 out of 18 months were a loser for Starbucks. September 29th, we get the protein lattes, and we've been on a 6-month winning streak with traffic at Starbucks. And the 7.1% quarterly same-store sales growth was pretty impressive and surprising. And so, and I don't know what I don't know how to plug this into the whole K-shaped economy or some of those other conversations, but if you get the fully loaded, if you will, protein latte, media grande with the cold foam, it's $8 or $9, $9, I think. Seems to be working. So 7.1% same-store sales growth at Starbucks, and more good news for that protein mania story that's been an undercurrent of a lot of our conversations.
Okay, Phil. I maybe have a stupid fearless prediction this week.
That's my department.
So we're looking at spot cheese. That's $1.64 as of today. I think we will see CME spot blocks hit $1.45 before we hit $1.85.
So that's 20. Yeah, okay. So that's a fair bet. It's a 20-cent over under, right?
Yep.
I don't think I would take the other side of that today. I just think that we're just sort of meandering and doing a whole lot of nothing there right now, and it's hard to see how we get going all that fast and far.
Yeah, especially when European cheese prices and European butter prices are falling. I don't know.
There's a good chance we're going to keep making cheese just to get the whey, even if the cheese isn't all that popular.
Yep.
The whey tail is wagging the cheese dog.
Okay, what's your fearless prediction today?
Okay, just going to get out in front of the next cold storage report. Historically, past 5 years, butter stocks increased by 27 million pounds between March and April. I'm taking the over.
Ooh.
These cold storage numbers, I don't know. I mean, they seem to be a little bit undercounted to me just generally, so that might make it a little dangerous to make the prediction. But look, I believe that prices tell us about fundamentals as much as fundamentals tell us about price. And what is price telling us about butter today? We got plenty, right? So May 22nd, cold storage report, taking the over on 27 million pounds.
Well, Phil, let's get rolling to our first guest.
We're excited to have Skyler Sherrod with us today. Skyler is the General Manager of Terminal Operations for Western Dairy Transport, the nation's largest milk and dairy transportation provider. He's also the President of the International Milk Haulers Association. Skyler, welcome to the Dairy Download.
Thanks, Phil. Good to be here.
First off, just tell us a little bit about Western Dairy Transport and your role at the company and its role in the industry.
Yes, sir. Happy to. So, yeah, Western Dairy Transport is the largest milk hauling company in the country. We specialize in moving raw milk from farms to processing plants, and other dairy products from plant to plant, safely, efficiently, and on time. It's just like everything in the dairy industry. It's a true 24/7 day operation. Cows don't take the day off, so neither do we. We're super proud of a lot of the nationwide recognition we've received as well. WT is a two-time winner of the NTTC Grand Safety Award, a recipient of the Rand McNally Safety Award, and we've also been named an elite fleet by the Truckload Carriers Association for 2 years running, and made the list of best fleets to watch in the year before. So those honors really reflect the hard work and professionalism of our entire team, and we're super, super proud to share those things. I currently serve as the general manager of terminal operations, where I oversee multiple locations across our network. My main focus is making sure our teams are operating safely, efficiently, and consistently. That includes everything from driver performance and staffing to equipment utilization and process improvement. At the end of the day, my job is to make sure we're delivering to our customers while also taking care of our people at the same time.
Just to speak the obvious to us, but maybe not everybody, perishability is kind of what makes this fun, right? I mean, it adds definitely some extra impetus to the whole process. Talk about that and talk about the lessons or how perishability fits into your daily thinking and activities.
Yeah, so perishability, I mean, it's one of the number one factors we have to deal with. Obviously we want to get the product transported safely and efficiently from the farm to the plant as quickly as possible, and we want to meet all of the guidelines our customers put it into place. So that falls into a lot of our standard operating procedures that we put into place. Falls into a lot of our training that goes into our drivers as far as transporting the product, and of course we operate a lot of tank wash facilities around the country too. So really just implementing good standard operating procedures and making sure on a daily basis that we're keeping these things in front of our teams, and we're training them to recognize and understand we are dealing with a perishable food product, and we've got to make sure that we do everything right and follow all the guidelines effectively. It really does, like you said, kind of make it fun, makes it interesting, puts a time stamp on it, and gives us that push of energy we need to do the hard work, because it is hard work, and people put a lot of hours in it. Like we talked about before, it's not a Monday through Friday 8 to 5 gig. We're up all night thinking about different things and trying to make things work right. So it does add a lot of excitement to the industry.
Okay, so perishability can be a fun challenge, but outside of dealing with a raw product that has a basically an end date on it, what are some of the biggest hurdles that you're facing?
Let's see. As far as that goes, I would say some of the biggest hurdles we're facing there. We do a lot of long hauls. Of course, we're also kind of changing our business model in a lot of areas. Some of the new plants that have come into play have really changed the distance that some of our farm milk goes. For example, the Leprino plant coming into Lubbock has changed the length of haul on a lot of that West Texas milk, which used to primarily ship to Dallas and serve the DFW Metroplex. So that's more of a 50-mile haul as opposed to what it used to be, a 300 to 400 mile haul. So tying that into some of the challenges we're facing, obviously temperature in the summertime is a huge issue. Some of our folks up in the Northeast and different areas have different struggles than we do. Dealing with the IMHA, I get to interact with a lot of different haulers. So up there, they deal with trying to keep milk from freezing in the wintertime. We try to keep milk cool in the tankers in the summertime. That's one of our biggest challenges. So really investing in technology and tankers and insulation and different things to maintain that temperature in the tankers is a huge factor for us. So I would say that's the biggest thing that we face perishability wise, is keeping that milk cool on the tanker, making sure it's loaded at the proper temperature, and that we're thinking on the front side, hey, this is going to be a longer haul. It's maybe going from Arizona to to Texas or something like that. So we have to be very intentional about using higher insulation trailers on those longer hauls.
Would you say that finding truck drivers and keeping truck drivers is a hurdle?
That is definitely a challenge, one of our biggest challenges, really. And, we are proud to have a great retention rate compared to the industry, but even that is still not acceptable for us. So we're consistently working on finding and retaining qualified drivers who understand the importance of what we do. And like we talked about earlier, milk hauling is specialized. It's not just driving from point A to point B. Like another thing we talked about, we're handling perishable food products with strict quality standards. So we're really a dairy service company that is hauling milk as opposed to a transportation company. So sometimes it's a little difficult to compare our driving roles to driving roles in other spaces. Another challenge that we see with that is efficiency, and we've got to be very intentional about our routing, scheduling, and minimizing downtime. And all of those things put together just make it a difficult and challenging industry to find drivers who want to be in that space.
So that's the challenges side. What about opportunities? What kind of big opportunities do you see in the space?
I think there's some great opportunities too, and one of the things we say about the dairy industry is it's a blessing and a curse. The blessing is it's always there for you, and the curse is it's always there for you. So the opportunities for our drivers, we deal a lot in West Texas and Eastern New Mexico. We have a lot of oil field competition, obviously, and in the oil field, you never know when you're going to come in tomorrow, and you may be laid off. The difference there is we have a lot more consistency in our driving roles. We've got quite a few roles that they can be home every day, home every maybe home every night, just depending on the schedule. But we can offer that consistency of schedule. They know that milk is always there for you, and even on the weekends and holidays and overnight, we need people running. So I think that's a huge opportunity, and we're also working on some different things to be able to get younger people into driving roles. Some of the barriers to entry into the trucking industry is a lot of insurance companies won't allow drivers who are less than 23 to drive for them. So we've been working with some different insurance carriers and everything to try to get some new entrants into the industry. So we've got an apprenticeship program that we're putting drivers through. They can come in out of high school at 18, complete a 2-year program, and then they can be driving within a specified range in about by the time they're 21, and really kind of breaking down that barrier of 23. So that's been very helpful and a big opportunity for us moving forward.
Okay, let's shift gears a little bit. I want to talk tech. How is technology changing the way you haul milk and other dairy products?
Yeah, so there's a lot of technology. I think it's a really kind of an old school phrase, but there's an app for that, right? And that's really become prevalent, as you know, in the dairy transportation world in the last 2 to 3 years. I mean, we've probably, if I'm just counting quickly off the top of my head, our drivers probably have 4 to 5 apps on their smartphone that they have to use day in and day out. Whether it's a mobile manifest app, it's a fuel card app where they have to get a code. All these things just are kind of bombarding us at the same time. So I think integration is something that we're really working on, and I think a lot of folks are figuring out how to improve the communication between all of these different platforms and just kind of standardize that. But we have been putting a lot of focus on our transportation management system in order to track loads and data in real time. I think that's been a hindrance to us in the past is not having great data to be able to analyze and look at efficiencies and where things are going and what they're doing. So as we get more of this data in a more useful environment, that's been very helpful. But it has been quite a challenge to merge all these things together so quickly and start using different things. But I would also say we're using data more intentionally now with the addition of these things. So we're being able to track load times, driver productivity, equipment utilization, all those things that help us identify trends and fix issues before they become bigger. So that's been very helpful. And then another area of technology that we're investing in currently is advanced in-cab camera systems. These systems leverage AI to track both positive and negative driver behaviors and gives us the ability to coach our drivers more effectively and specifically, while also recognizing and enforcing the great things that they're doing along the way. So that's been a really valuable tool for safety and development. Beyond that, just communication tools have improved how our teams can stay connected across locations because we are so spread out and we've got a lot of things that tie in together. So that real-time accurate information is critical. And I think as we move forward, getting all these apps and different data sources to talk to each other and to integrate with each other, I think would be very helpful.
What do you think is going to change the most in dairy transportation in the next decade?
That's a really great question. And, I think data and automation is probably going to have the biggest impact. We continue to see the AI, the different technology things. We see the improvements in routing optimization, predictive maintenance, and just real-time tracking. There's been a lot of discussion lately with, you order a package from UPS and you can track it, exactly where it is at any given time. So I think we're kind of moving that direction in the dairy transport world too. Customers want to be able to see where their product is, what the temperature is, when it's going to arrive, what kind of issues they're seeing. So I think the automation and data will have that biggest impact, and that's all driven through that technology. We also hope to see going forward, as all of these things come together, more standardization across the industry, and that's something we work on in the IMHA and NCIMS to just try to make sure that we can drive efficiency and consistency around the nation. The one other thing to mention, autonomous technology is something people talk a lot about, but in our space, I think we'll have a slower adoption to that due to the variability in farm pickups and the very technical side of what we deal with and the perishability and those things like we talked about. So that said, there will be definitely advancements in that space, but they'll be more supporting of drivers and make our jobs safer and more efficient.
Well, Skyler, we really appreciate you joining us on the Dairy Download today and talking to us more about milk hauling across the U.S.
Yes, ma'am. It's been a pleasure to be here. I appreciate it.
Let's keep on trucking with our second transportation interview.
We're excited to welcome Don Durm to the show. Don is a nationally recognized authority on the temperature-controlled supply chain. As Vice President of Supply Chain Solutions at PLM Fleet, he guides global companies and policymakers on building safer, smarter, and more resilient food supply chains. Don, welcome to the Dairy Download.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, Phil.
Can you share a bit about PLM Fleet and the work you do?
Oh, great. Yeah. So PLM Fleet is the largest provider of temperature-controlled trailers in North America. We have 15,000 of those things running around in the U.S. today. It's pretty simple. We help companies really move sensitive products and safely and reliability and compliantly. We work with dairy processors, carriers, logistics providers to really ensure that they get the right equipment with the right technology. We actually help customers really manage that risk. Today, we've got so many risks of, tariffs, increasing cost of different things. To manage that risk through our full service leases, our track leases, and our managed maintenance program that we have also. And then we also have advanced telematics called Cold Lake. And then we also have gone all the way down to the pallet and the case level with a solution called PLM Truss Lake. And so my role as the Vice President of Supply Chain Solutions, I really help customers bridge that gap between the equipment, the data, and the decision-making process in that. So these include regulatory readiness, food safety challenges, adopting technologies to improve the visibility throughout the supply chain. And we help really translate those complex regulatory and operational requirements into practical and scalable operations. And really, that's kind of really in short that kind of what I do for the company.
So, look, moving stuff on the open road from point A to point B has never been easy, if you will. There's always things. But can you think of a more turbulent time than where we are today? I mean, we've got driver shortages or, so little supply issues going on. We've got uncertainty around demand with the tariffs and all that stuff. Oh, and by the way, diesel prices kind of, up 50, 70, 90% in a 5 to 6 week span. Talk a little bit about how that affects your customers and how it affects how you're interacting with your customers over the past several weeks.
Many of your listeners out there have probably delayed ordering equipment because of the tariffs, because there's this overbuilt, they could get cheaper rates doing it. That's not going to happen now. Rates are not necessarily going to go down. If you can imagine, there's a big tariff on steel and aluminum. And guess what? Refrigerated trailer is 80% steel and aluminum. So that's really impacting the cost of these things. So that's why looking at different financial instruments today helps you manage that risk. Instead of putting your money into a capital expenditure like that, get something that appreciates. Maybe you're going into advanced technologies like robotics or something like that, or investments inside your warehouse that actually increase in value.
So spot reefer rates are running about 40% above where they were a year ago, according to DAT, Freight Analytics. The all-time highs were in 2022 when, that was sort of the post-COVID reshuffle mania. Are we going to moderate somewhere around here, or where do you see this going?
I see contract rates going. Contract rates will be delayed a couple of months beyond the spot rate market that you're talking about. And, people are going to look to settle in to get those, I've got my lane that I want to go after. You're going to see a reduction of drivers. So they're going to need to be properly paid for that. So these larger trucking companies are now going to be able to make money and to be able to pay and to do those things. My competitor sometimes is my customer, because they've got 150 trailers and they can't put them all to use because they don't want to lose money pulling product down the road. So what they're doing is they're renting that equipment out. So they might have 30 units that they're renting to fill that gap.
In the freight world, do you see technological advances, AI, real-time data helping to change how people move product, manage risk, improve quality and compliance?
Absolutely. Here's what we're seeing today. Present state today really is, you can have advanced telematics. We have an advanced telematics called Cold Link, and it will give you so much overwhelming data that it just comes in at you. So they silence it. They're using telematics today as, oh crap, something went wrong. Pull the data for me. Okay, we're not really managing it like we should be. It's because customers don't want to hear all that noise. So AI, what it's doing, and that's really the drawback right now, that is so much data coming into a customer, it overwhelms them, and so they shut it down. So AI gives us the ability to look at foresight, to be able to take a look at what are the predictive analysis of potential risks that I'm going to be dealing with. So they really dramatically limit that AI, that manual effort to be able to look at something while it's en route. So really what the key point here is, we're really looking at these alarms with decision fatigue will go away, and now you can make some intelligent design decisions.
So what's next? What's next specifically for dairy transportation?
That's a good question. And so I think the continued elevation of predictive asset management will go on. The problem with many customers, they're holding on to assets way too long. Okay, refrigerated trailers have never been older than they are today because of COVID and all the pre-buys, and they've held on the assets. So part of the challenge is that as trailers get older, they're a lot less efficient. And to give you an example, and we look at many different factors. So when I look at a life cycle, we don't look at a trailer life cycle as, hey, 10 years you buy the trailer, it's yours, or 8 years. We look at the specific customer, and it's really a usage case. So a refrigerated trailer fuel burn when it's brand new is 0.6 gallons per runtime hour. An older refrigerated trailer, let's say 8 years or 10 years, can burn as much as, we'll go 1.4, but maybe as 2.5 gallons runtime hour. Oh, so it's a very, very big thing, and they're not measuring. They think it's the TRU, the refrigeration unit, so they'll replace it. They'll put a brand new one on it. It's actually the box. The box actually loses thermal efficiency, so it does what we call outgas. The insulation has a lot of little bubbles in it. It's not the bubbles that actually protect you as far as the insulation. It's the gas that's in the bubbles. So those will actually leak out through time. So in the first 5 years, you can lose as much as 35 or 50% thermal efficiency. So the unit has 2 speeds on it, high speed and low speed. High speed gets you to temperature, removes that residual heat, and then goes down. You'll hear it power down, and that maintains. The challenge is when you don't have that capability of holding the cold, it has to run in high speed for longer periods of time. So really you should be changing out the box instead of the TRU.
And you can't re-bubble the box? And I know that that's not the right terminology.
No, re-insulate. So that says, because everything is adhered to. So when they do the manufacturing process, the walls are put up, the insulation's poured in between, so everything acts as one unit. So that's why it's important also for fleets to repair their refrigerated trailers as soon as they get, because it's outgasses. Also, water gets in there. An older refrigerated trailer can weigh as much as 2,500 pounds more than when it was brand new. So it is that's part of the challenge. So it really brings me to a point on energy efficient, sustainable type of assets. I've got whole entire fleets out there running on all electric. They just plug them in at the end of the day. What's the advantage to those is that obviously you don't need any diesel fuel. And those are really, really interesting sustainability conversations. I know in this industry, we really talk about sustainable packaging and things like that. Well, I do a session I call Nobody Goes Green Unless It Pays Green. And so it really brings in these sustainable types of things. So, our studies have shown that you can reduce your operational costs, that's your fuel and what you pay for maintenance, by 93%. Okay, it's a higher price point, but PLM does have grant money and bond money available that we can still get a hold of to help reduce some of that. The third one I would talk to you a little bit about is really the end-to-end traceability. It's not going to be acceptable. There are some new rules coming down the pike, FSMA 204B, enhanced traceability of certain foods, and there are some category of dairy products that are in that one. And that's going to require that all the critical tracking events and the key data elements will travel with the food all the way through supply chain. And the retailer and the restaurant will have to keep a record of that for 2 years in a repository in their facility. Think about this. If you had to put a hold on your product, if you're a dairy processor, if you had to put a hold or make a recall, and you knew it didn't enter commerce yet, as far as to the committee, you wouldn't have to put a news article out there and say, hey, we need to recall this. Do you got any of this in your fridge? You would already know that. The average recall in the U.S. is $10 million, and we're actually getting more recalls than we ever have.
Don, I have a quick closer for you, just a little myth busting. I remember hearing at one time that you could not transport Cool Whip over the Rocky Mountains because the air would come out of the containers and you would open the doors in Sacramento if it was shipped from Chicago and the Cool Whip would be flat. Is that a myth or reality?
I don't know that for fact, but I can tell you that I believe it because the same thing happens with potato chips and potato chip bags. Okay? So what they have to do is the potato chip companies have to make a facility that actually manufactures at those higher elevations, so that way when they put it in there, they can transport it and it won't blow up on them.
There you have it. Don, fascinating conversation. Thanks so much for joining us on the Dairy Download.
Great to be here.
That's a wrap for today's show. As always, we want to thank our production team, Mariah Minnick, Andrew Jerome, and Jeff Cullen at IDFA, and Abby Bauer over here at Everag. If you are interested in what Kathleen and I do for our day jobs, check us out at ever.ag. And remember, if you enjoy the show, hit the subscribe button and leave us a positive review on your favorite podcast platform.
Thanks for listening to the Dairy Download. Until next time, stay sharp.